What's going on, everybody? It is Wednesday, May 12th. We are almost into the summer. Zion is back in the Wire's headlines. Tim Tebow is back in the NFL. The Paul brothers are striking again, and we're going to talk Luka boys. That and so much more. The Wire starts now. What's up, guys? Welcome to The Wire. It is Wednesday, my favorite day of the week, because we get to unwind and talk some sports with three of my best friends in the world. Richie Phillips, Sahi Wright, and Marvin Scott. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Doing great, brother. Good to see y'all, man. A lot of shit went down this week, so it's
looking forward
got
to
a lot
it.
to catch up on.
Yeah, it is a jam-packed week for sure, and we are going to bounce all over the place, and we're going to start actually in the wonderful world of boxing. This is something that we've talked about a little bit in the past. We did touch on the Jake Paul, Ben Askren's fight a little bit, but it's getting a little more interesting. It's getting a little more heated, guys, in my opinion. So Logan Paul, Jake Paul's brother, and if you don't know the Paul brothers, they're YouTube phenomenons, Instagram, what do you call them? Influencers, social media icons, okay? Logan Paul has now been confirmed for a fight with Floyd Money Mayweather on June 6th. It's happening. It is an expedition bout. There's going to be an undercard. This is going to be another one of those events. My first question for Around the Horn here is this fight, the Logan Paul, we're specifically talking about Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather, is this fight bad for the sport of boxing? Keep in mind that Logan Paul, as far as boxing goes, he's 0-1. He's had one professional fight back in 2019. Apologize if I get the name wrong. I think it's Olajide Williams beat him. Clearly, to me, at least, before I send this around the horn, I think this has got more to do with Logan's 19.3 million Instagram followers than it does his boxing background. But what do you guys think? Is this bad for the sport of boxing? Whoever wants it first.
I'll go first. I love boxing. We've talked about this a million times over. To me, is this bad for the sport of boxing? And here's what I say to that. Hell no, it's not bad. Is this going to be a bad match? Sure. Hell yeah, it's going to be a bad match. But here's the thing about boxing, right? Boxing is a dying art, and it shouldn't be. I love boxing. But the reality is the pay-per-view is a dying medium. Even the UFC with ESPN bundles, like the ESPN Plus bundling and trying to use their marketing and Fox previously, people just don't buy. Now, there are exceptions like Conor McGregor and, hey, what do you know, Floyd Mayweather. Now, outside of the name of Floyd Mayweather, does anybody get money in boxing? Not really. And not how it used to be in the 90s. So do I think this is bad for the sport of boxing? No, it's just exposure in that sense. Is this going to be a complete mismatch that's like a waste of time in terms of like quality technical skill? Absolutely. But do I think this is bad? No. You know, anything that can get the eyes on the sport again, I'm all for. I was totally for that ridiculous Conor McGregor versus Mayweather thing too. Because at the end of the day, and I'll say this with conviction, it might be disrespectful to Conor McGregor, but this is no different. This is just a white boy. Everyone's happy and hoping can beat Floyd Mayweather. But Floyd Mayweather is the greatest boxer of all time. And I'm saying that as a Muhammad Ali fan, all right? Floyd Mayweather is the greatest boxer of all time. He may not have the style you like. He may not knock people out, but he is the best defensive boxer. He doesn't get hit. And what? This guy's 6 inches taller and 50 pounds. That's all I keep hearing about. He's a fucking amateur. Justin just said it. He's 0-1 against another guy who he fought that's also an amateur, KSI. They're both YouTube celebrities. So, I mean, this is just a joke. This is the exact thing that I love to see, in the sense of like, people look at it like, oh, well, this guy's so much taller and bigger. Well, he doesn't have the technical skill. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'll tell you what. Do I think Logan Paul in a one-punch hit could punch a bag harder than Floyd Mayweather? Sure, he's 50 pounds bigger. That's possible. Do I think he can even remotely box with Floyd Mayweather? Hell no. What do I think is going to happen? I think Floyd's going to sit there in round 1, just like he did with McGregor, and he's going to let Paul hit him a couple times because he ain't that worried. Could he possibly nick him? Could he possibly, ring his bell a smidge? Possibly, but he ain't gonna knock his ass out regardless. So Floyd's gonna sit there and take the hits, because that's all everyone always said about Floyd, is he dodged stuff. Well, Floyd knows who he's facing. He's a kid who could hurt him, but not like ever beat him. So he's going to take the hits just to show, you know what, I could have took these hits, but I chose not to. So he's going to do this now just for the fans, to give us something. Because if he actually just did Floyd Mayweather play his technical game, Logan Paul wouldn't even get a punch in. Like, let's be realistic here. So he's going to try to make this entertaining. And that's what I love about Floyd Mayweather. People don't seem to understand it. They say his fights are boring. He could make them even more boring, people. I don't think you realize that. He could literally not get punched if he wanted to, but he chooses to kind of get hit once in a blue moon. This is going to be the biggest mismatch ever, but I don't think it's bad because this is an exhibition. Had this been an attempt to be legitimate, then that's bad for the sport. But this is an exhibition. It's no different than Muhammad Ali trying to fight against, what's that guy's name? That wrestler. I can't remember. Tokiyama, whatever.
Oh.
No. He actually wrestled against he fought a wrestler from Japan. I think his name was Akira Tokiyama or something in the early 70s. And the guy wasn't allowed to kick him. So he had to put his hand on the ground before he could kick him. Anyways, he did that fight, and the guy basically tapped his hand on the ground and kept kicking him in the ankle, and he actually screwed up his leg really bad. So anyways, my point being is that's the only other exhibition that was just absurd. And so, this is a spectacle. It's not intended to be serious. I think the only people who think it's serious are the white people who don't watch boxing, that are excited because they don't like Floyd Mayweather because he doesn't box the way they want him to box. So I'm very excited to watch all those people, just like Conor McGregor, get super salty when Paul gets his ass handed to him. I know I just completely stole this segment, but there we go.
Well, all right. You both are going to get an opportunity, but something new to this season of The Wire that we haven't hit yet until Richie just hit the button. It's a GOAT alert. The GOAT of all time boxing has been called out by Richie, Floyd Mayweather. Can you guys contest? If so, it goes on next week's episode.
Yes.
You can contest? Okay,
Man,
we will have this discussion next week for sure. That's all we needed. We needed one person to contest.
He got a yes, we'll do it.
The greatest boxer
GOAT
of all
alert.
time?
Yeah. He's saying it's Floyd.
He's saying it's Floyd. Can you contest? Well, we got one. We're going to have that conversation next week. Okay, so
we already got one next week.
Yeah, next week we're going to hit it up. The first GOAT alert. Okay, same question. Let's go over to Marvin, because I know Sahi's brewing. Is this fight between Logan Paul and Floyd Mayweather bad for the sport of boxing?
Hell yeah, it's bad for the sport of boxing. Exhibition or not, legitimate or not, this is terrible for the sport of boxing. Floyd is 44 years old. Is 44 years old. That's my man. I think he's one of the greatest boxers of all time. He's 50-0. He's undefeated. We've seen some of his greatest fights. You can YouTube them. You can watch them. I was watching the other day. So I'm like, why really take on this fight? It's a publicity stunt. No, this is for the Pauls. What good have the Pauls really done besides really, hone in on their YouTube followers? That's pretty much it. They haven't done shit. They are feeding off white privilege. They are an example of white privilege. Let's just call it exactly what it is. Because if they were anybody else with the same amount of followers, they're not about to get a fight with Floyd Mayweather. That's not about to happen. So when you think about it, I don't think it's just a fight Floyd's going in just thinking he's just going to play defense. Nah, these two legitimately pissed each other off at the presser. Did y'all see that the other day? Like, those things always get personal. They always do. Floyd is always on the defensive. I always feel like the person that's grilling Floyd, like, is really getting to Floyd. Like, Floyd, you can kind of tell Floyd is a little sensitive on the surface. I don't know if anyone else has noticed that. Floyd will come back with a good comeback every now and again. But when you really look at it, like, Floyd is really getting pissed off. So I watched that presser. And at the end of the presser, because you can see Floyd talking shit to Jake Paul standing below. He's standing below off stage. You can see that. So when those two confronted each other and Jake Paul took his hat, and I'm like, man, this is just worse. This is bad for TV. This is bad. This is terrible. Like, I'm not excited about this. It got further more even personal when he took his hat. Like, that was just straight up disrespectful. Like, you don't ever take a hat off another man's head. Like, if I just came through your screen, Justin, I took the hat off your head right now, like, you would get pissed off. You'd want to fight. So it's not like this is personal now at this point, and it didn't have to be. The Pauls, who the fuck are they? Like, who are they compared to Floyd Mayweather? So, I mean, yeah, like it might be exciting for some people to see, but I've had it. Like, I've seen Floyd's greatest fights. I think Floyd was really mad because, listen, man, I'm bald, and I enjoy watching Floyd Mayweather be bald. He didn't need to have any hair. He got upset because he took his hat off. I think that he was mad at the reaction that everybody had when, everybody saw his hair. That's what I thought, because somebody had said in this camp, they were like, man, Floyd's only mad because they took his hat off and they didn't want to see the haircut. So I'm like, man, like, just please let this be the only exhibition fight, not anymore, because Chad Johnson is supposed to be fighting on the same ticket. It's all for publicity. Like, who are the Pauls? Sahi, go ahead, man. Like, this is all for nothing. I would never want to fight you, Marvin, even if you took my hat. But my hair is probably looking just as bad as Floyd's was on that day. Yeah. Same question, Sahi. Is this just more, like Marvin said, more like Logan Paul's WrestleMania experience than it is, a traditional boxing, or is this good for the sport of boxing?
No, it's not good for the sport of boxing at all. Is it bad for the sport of boxing? I wouldn't say that. I mean, I'd rather see Floyd Mayweather fight the top boxers in his weight class, but he's my favorite. He's one of my favorite fighters of all time. He's one of the most unique fighters, being that he can generate a cash draw, you know what I'm saying, like nobody else, because people want to see him lose. Kind of like the Jake brothers. They're kind of like two clashing heads. People want to see the Pauls lose. People want to see Floyd Mayweather lose. So somebody's got to lose, you know what I'm saying? So this is great entertainment. So somebody's going to get what they want. And I think as far as like boxing, that's like the future of it, with the Triller events, and they've got concerts and stuff going on. And this guy's got an outside social media beef with this guy, so they're going to throw the gloves on. People want to see that type of stuff. So I think that's the future of the sports. It's unfortunate for boxers. So, but then again, at the same time, it's good for boxers, because you could be that boxer that gets on there and people follow you that you never know that will follow you, who is just like on the YouTubers coattail. So it's going to be good.
Some of those boxers are vying right now to get their spots on the undercard. They want to be a part of the event. I would tend to agree with Marvin that it's bad for the sport. I think that it's going in the wrong direction for combat sports, but who knows? I mean, there will be.
Hey, nobody's watching.
Just think about how long we had to wait on the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. We had to wait so long for that. So now we don't have to wait too long for Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul. We don't have to wait for that.
Something to think about. We might be seeing the revolution of getting these kind of fights taken out of the hands of the promoters, at least. We're waiting.
Well, and that's what that comes down to. We'll have to talk about that another day. This is too big of a scope of a topic. But because a lot of people always said Floyd was ducking Pacquiao, but Bob Arum was his promoter. And Floyd, as we know, self-promotes. And there was a lot more involved with that than just he didn't want to fight Pacquiao. We're going to have to talk about that later because, as we just said, we have two independent men doing something so they don't have to deal with negotiations. And they're getting all the money.
I hope he beats them both in the same night.
Oh, he will beat them both.
That's cool. I'm cool with that.
And I'm just saying, just to clarify.
Banned?
Go ahead, Ty. Go ahead.
I was just saying, isn't Jake banned for that night? Banned from the venue?
Allegedly, they're trying.
Yeah,
they're trying to ban him from the venue. Because what I was gonna say is the most disrespectful hat thing with Mayweather wasn't even that. It was way back when he had a beef with 50. And 50 challenged him to read a page of Harry Potter on Jimmy Kimmel. And so then Jimmy Kimmel was like, no, look, just do the Cat in the Hat. It's a little easier. And he still wouldn't come on. That's the most disrespectful hat thing I've ever seen with Floyd Mayweather. Not this stuff, all right, guys? That shit was mean, all right?
Well, we got boxing in there. Let's turn it on. And I would say the quarterback carousel turns around, and it does. We're going to talk quarterbacks here in a little bit. But let's first talk about a former quarterback, Tim Tebow. Yeah, you heard me right. Tim Tebow was signed to the signed this week in Jacksonville as a Jaguars tight end. Tim Tebow is 33 years old, and he signed a one-year deal to the Jags. We all know that the former Broncos QB collegiate coach, Urban Meyer, is now the head coach of Jacksonville. Does Tebow at 33 deserve this opportunity? This is my first question for you, to essentially walk on like this. And do we think that he has any positive difference to make on the team as a tight end?
I'm definitely stealing this first. Marvin said white privilege earlier. This is the epitome of white privilege right here. This gentleman has literally never played tight end in his entire goddamn life. He ran 2 snaps for the New York Jets as a tight end. And go look this up on YouTube if you don't believe me. The only play that he actually went for a pass when he wasn't blocking, he was supposed to go out on an out route, and it was a 2-yard out, and it bounced off the back of his head because he didn't realize the play was designed for him, okay? That's the only NFL play Tim Tebow ever played as a tight end, okay? He hasn't played it in college. He never played it in high school. This is exactly what I was shit-talking when Urban Meyer was hired at Jacksonville. Urban Meyer is a great college coach, all right? Year in, year out, that dude could get winners. We don't need to talk about the culture of what was happening with his teams, but he would be able to get winners. But you know what? I've always said this, same thing with Nick Saban. It doesn't matter what you do in college and the NFL. They are two different climates, and you can be successful in one and not necessarily the other. They're not going to translate. This dude clearly has no fucking clue what he's doing. He just likes Tim Tebow, and the fact that he's willing to waste a roster spot on a key position for them. Right now, tight end is their weak spot, and they drafted a young gentleman in the 5th round for that purpose. All right. So you're bringing in somebody who clearly will be useless to you, and you're doing it under the vein of, well, he's a good leader and he's going to bring leader. Nobody cares, dude. I would not respect that. Like, don't get me wrong. He's a great leader, yada, yada, yada. But I would not respect him trying to give me a rah-rah speech as the 3rd string tight end. I'm sorry. Shut the fuck up, dude. You don't even play. Sit down. Stop talking. Like, this is crazy to me, but this is the epitome of like what's wrong in the universe, right? And I'm not trying to compare them because it's different circumstances, but Colin Kaepernick can't get an opportunity to play his position, and Tim Tebow's playing a position he's never played 7 years after he fucking retired and just retired from baseball. He has no business playing in the NFL right now at any position. And don't get me wrong, if Tim Tebow left the Jets and like switched to tight end when he was like 25 or 26, I would have been like, cool, it gives him the opportunity. But as Justin just pointed out, I think the gentleman's 32 or 33 now. 33. He's 33. He's significantly older. Tight end is one of the hardest positions to play because not only do you have to block in the pass game, but in the run game, and you have to learn your receiving routes. It's one of the most challenging positions. And for a guy who played the most challenging and cerebral position and clearly couldn't do that very well, he has no business trying to play the second hardest position. It's not in the cards for him. It would have been different if this was 7 years ago and he was 27, but that's no longer the case. He has no business on this field. This is an embarrassment, but this is exactly why Jacksonville hired Urban Meyer. They just want to get people to see them, basically. This is basically what we just talked about in the previous thing. This is all for show to get eyes and viewers on Jacksonville because nobody's given a shit. They've been historically the least amount of Pro Bowl players every single year on their team. They're just a terrible franchise. When they only had Fred Taylor. That was the only time they're successful, and Jimmy Smith. Ever since then, they're being trash. They're gonna be trash. This is just indicative. Hopefully, Urban Meyer gets fired in 3 years. Otherwise, this is gonna be more of the same. He hired a strength coach that literally used the N-word and had 5 people try to sue him in Iowa. And he hired him saying, I talked to the man and he's changed. And then a month later had to fire him because he realized how stupid he is. I hope he understands this and doesn't act like the contract happened. But what I hope happens is they go through camp and then they just accept the fact that this was a dumb mistake and then they cut his ass. Because if they want to be taken serious as a football team in a position they need to look for a player who can actually play the position properly.
Sahi, you're a former collegiate football player, high school football player, excellent athlete. I've had the pleasure of seeing you play on multiple occasions. Tim Tebow was in contention as one of the for the season better quarterbacks playing at the time, right? He played amongst the elite. Then he decided that he was going to try minor league baseball out, never made it into the majors there, and has been resting at a semi-decent job, I think, as an ESPN analyst. What do you make of this decision to play? And do you think with Urban Meyer's past as a coach, do you think he will have Tebow start? Do you think he'll make it onto the starting roster? They've got, I believe, 5 tight ends right now total.
Yeah, I think he's going to make the roster for sure. You're not going to sign him without a plan because he's been out of the league for a while. And by plan, I mean, it brings to mind another guy that Sean Payton uses in New Orleans that's listed as a tight end. He plays some quarterback. He plays a little punt protector. He plays a little running back. He kind of does it all. And I feel like you use Tebow as a weapon. You know what I'm saying? Is he going to play a traditional tight end role? I don't believe so. He's one of those guys that you could throw behind center. And now the defense has to think, what does this guy do? Is he running? Is he throwing? What are we doing? Because you got to understand they still have a rookie quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. He's going to be the starter day one. But he's going to need some pressure taken off of him because Urban Meyer doesn't want to throw him into the fire and reading NFL defenses week in and week out and be pressured to throw 40 and 50 times a game. You're going to need some change-ups, some gatchy things. And I love the move for Tebow. I thought he was one of the better. I thought he got slandered in the league. I remember, I know you don't want me to bring this up, Justin, but I remember a playoff game in Denver against the Steelers. Tim Tebow dropped back, threw it from way back here, and threw a slant for a touchdown and won a playoff game. Of course, they lost after that, and he was out of the league.
Pretty sure Demaryius Thomas had a big part.
Yeah, but to me, Tebow was one of those players. He's like, he's not going to look great in shorts or in practice, but when it's game time and the game is on the line, and you need somebody to make a play, Tebow is one of those guys that has that cool under pressure that's going to do what he can to get done. And you know what I'm saying? They kicked him out the league, and you know what I'm saying? He wouldn't play baseball. He stayed in shape, but You know what I'm saying? I'm excited to see what he does in the league.
You killing me, Sahi. If he's playing quarterback, maybe.
Right.
If he was playing quarterback, I could give you what you're talking about.
To see what he does in the league.
I'm not excited. I can't. Sahi, you're killing
I
me.
can't
Bro.
wait.
I tried to hold it.
I see the smoke brewing over there. Please respond to Sahi, but also I'm going to throw the wrench in the gear right here on this story, because I think this story is the wrench. I mean, let's be honest. My other question, definitely combat what Sahi said. How does this look to the players with superior talent to Tim Tebow, who will never be afforded this kind of opportunity?
Y'all look terrible. I think this is bad for the locker room and on all levels. I mean, you brought in a guy that hasn't played football in how many years? He's been commentating. We just saw him on ESPN not that long ago. Like, he's not even on the mainstream ESPN. He's like on an ESPN like 3 or like at a different time.
He's almost on the Ocho.
Yeah, he's almost on the Ocho. Like, it's because they really don't want to tell him, like, okay, Tim, let's hear your analysis, because we really don't take you that. We never really took you seriously as a full-time NFL football player, which he never was. I mean, that play in Denver, Sahi, that you brought up, I mean, we all both know on Madden you can do that and get lucky and take it to the house, because after that, he didn't even do anything. So I don't understand how you can pass up on so many guys that have been working hard in that position in college, and you would pick Tim Tebow over those guys. Like, I just don't understand Urban Meyer's decision on this. Like, this is not the Florida Gators. This is an NFL. This is a NFL team. Like, but his mentality is, I'm gonna bring him in, and I'm just gonna bring him in because I know him. But am I going to use him at tight end? Am I going to use him as a gadget player? I wouldn't even want to see that, because he's 33. I mean, he's over the hill. He's way over the hill at this point. So, like, it's not like they got their tight ends the ball last season. I mean, they didn't do a lot of anything. Like Richie, like you said, they've been one of the shittiest franchises for the longest. I mean, he couldn't keep Jalen Ramsey. They couldn't keep Calais Campbell. They couldn't keep, but they had Blake Bortles. They haven't had a good quarterback since Mark Brunell. Thank God they got Trevor Lawrence. But you bring but you bring in Tim Tebow like that. There's so many questions surrounding this roster. And that's one of your answers for tight end. Like, you please can't, please tell me he's going to get cut. Like, I hope, I'm really thinking he can get cut. Like, because Urban Meyer can't go along with this for a full season. He's not going to give you anything. Like, it's just like Richie said, like, this dude doesn't even know how to run the right route. Doesn't even understand route trees. He was a quarterback, a left-handed quarterback. So I think that Tim Tebow should be on what you call like a trial basis, like a 10, like doing the NBA, like a 10-day contract,
yeah,
like a 10-day contract. They should do that, because he has no business playing tight end. There are probably a lot of free agent tight ends. There are some retired tight ends that I would take right now. I would take Antonio Gates still over Tim Tebow.
At 47 years old.
I would take Tony Gonzalez. I would take any tight end I can think of that's retired right now over Tim Tebow. I'd take Shannon Sharp. I'd be like, Shannon Sharp. It's like, I'd be like, you want to come off undisputed? Yeah, you want to come off undisputed and play over Tim Tebow? I mean, yeah. So I think this is silly, man. He had no business playing football.
I bet you this.
Ooh, what you gonna bet?
I bet you this. He throw for a touchdown.
That I believe.
He catches a touchdown, and he runs for a touchdown.
I agree with that.
All in one game.
Oh, you crazy? Nah.
Maybe all
Okay,
in one game.
Do you pick him up on your fantasy team?
Yeah. True. It'd be nice to have on the bench.
Don't you dare waste the roster spot on Tim Tebow.
Yeah, just see how he does the first couple weeks. You know what I'm saying? You might need him for a late playoff push later down in the season.
Is it so hard to believe that Urban Meyer wanted to bring in? I mean, one, he's checking off a Tebow bucket list. Obviously, he wanted to play in the major leagues. That never happened. Now he wanted to play tight end. He had that opportunity when he first came into the league. And
he just refused. They wanted him to.
They wanted him to play tight end because of his size, but he wouldn't do it.
I'm a quarterback. You guys will see. I'm prove everyone wrong.
So he checked
league.
Those boxes. He wants to check this box. Is it so hard to believe that this is just a chance to get a big brother in for Trevor Lawrence and somebody to look up to?
Well, no, that's my point though. That like here, I get what you're saying. And to Sahih's point, like again, Sahih, he's playing quarterback. Fine, your argument is totally malleable and fair, but he's playing a position he doesn't have a fucking clue. He's the fourth string. You don't. Like what they need right now, like you just mentioned, Trevor Lawrence is a rook. He's going to have a lot of pressure, like Sahih's point. I want to get very serious about this. A lot of pressure. You know what helps alleviate the pressure? Offensive weapons, so he can get the ball out. Tim Tebow, if it's not a gadget play, it's not an offensive weapon unless it's a gadget play or he's playing quarterback. If Trevor Lawrence can be like, all right, let me line up, and then he comes off tight end and goes into the fullback and he does a quick handoff, that doesn't truly help Trevor Lawrence. Like those packages will not help Trevor Lawrence succeed as a quarterback. It may help him not get hit, but that's not what we're looking for. He needs to be the future in the franchise. So what you need to be doing is looking for teams and players that are actually going to develop to go with Trevor. This is not a player that I believe can develop to the future. He's 32 years young. He doesn't know the position. Like if this was 27-year-old Tim Tebow, just like Sahih's point is him being a gamer, I'd totally be like, you know what, take the chance. Because in 3 years, he'll figure it out and he's a big hoss and he'll make the plays we need him to make. But he's 32. By the time he figures this out, if he's lucky, he'll be 35 years old. And at that point, Rob Gronkowski is a perfect example. One of the greatest tight ends of all time. When he turned 35, he was literally a shell of himself that could only catch a touchdown. He had like 18 catches and like 12 of them were touchdowns. The dude couldn't do anything else because he couldn't move his knees anymore. And that's going to be Tim Tebow's fate at the end of the day. I hope the gentleman does not get an opportunity. He goes back on ESPN The Ocho so I can listen to him do twice a year. They bring him in and be like, Tim, give us a speech on ESPN. Like they don't want his analyst stuff like Marvin was talking about. They just ask him for a rah, give me a speech. Or what's this quarterback thinking? That's what they use.
All they want.
That's all they want. To sell his face.
We're going to close the first half off with something new. I'm going to give you each 60 seconds on a pretty tough question. So this is going to be hard. I got a stopwatch pulled up. 60 seconds and I'm going to cut you off. Which 21-22 rookie quarterback will start a playoff game first? And 60 seconds of why. We'll start with Marvin.
Justin Fields. Justin Fields, simply because you wouldn't trust Andy Dalton in that situation. Definitely not. If you got a star-studded cast like David Montgomery and Allen Robinson, and you got a good supporting wide receiver core that surrounds Allen Robinson, you got a great running game, you insert Justin Fields, they are a playoff team in the NFC North. I mean, you got, like I said before in the last show, you basically got the Kyler Murray of the NFC North, pretty much.
And Aaron Rodgers might not be in Green Bay.
He might not be there.
We'll get back to Rodgers next week for sure. All right, Sahih. Which one?
I'm going to go with Mac Jones, just because he is in the AFC North playing for Bill Belichick. Cam Newton isn't going to be healthy all season. I think we all pretty much know that. But the Patriots have a great defense. Like I said, they're in the AFC North playing against the Jets. Terrible. Bills might be a challenge, but the Miami Dolphins, they're beatable. Nobody's scared of the Dolphins right now, so they got a chance to win their division. So that's all you need to get into the playoffs. And that late in the season, Mac Jones is probably starting by then, and Bill Belichick is going to have a plan ready to go.
I'm proud of you guys. You're staying under 40 seconds. Richie, who is it going to be?
This is easy. Trevor Lawrence and Tim Tebow. No, I'm just fuck that. No way, no how. I'm going to go different. I agree. Both of these guys make great points, but I'm going to go with Trey Lance from San Francisco 49ers. And the reason why I say that is they're a great team. Jimmy Garoppolo is healthy, but guess what? He never stay healthy. So I really think what's going to happen is Jimmy will play maybe 8 games, probably have him at 6-2. And at some point in the second half of the season, they get injured. Trey steps in. So does Trey earn it the same way that I think Justin Fields will? No, but I do believe Trey Lance and Justin Fields are the 2 front runners for sure. Because in my opinion, both of them could easily win their division.
Man, all 3 of you under 40 seconds. So proud. First time we did a 60-second timer and you all beat it by 20 seconds. Okay, don't go anywhere, folks. When we come back, we're going to talk about Zion Williamson for the 3rd time in Wire history. I I don't know what's going on. You're watching The Wire. We'll be
He's
right
famous.
back. And did you guys check out what went down with that? All right. So this is Gary 43. He says, I feel like Justin is the reason this country has to put directions on shampoo. Do you even know what you're talking about, bro? No, I don't, Gary fucking 43. I have no idea. I don't even use shampoo. I just use 1 3-in-1 body wash, you bastard.
All right, this is from Karen 45. How do you feel about being ranked sexiest man on your podcast when Tony looks like a barbecued Kermit the Frog?
Jesus Christ.
Wait a second.
My.
Why? That sounds like a Tony rip. Why is Marvin?
That's a Tony rip. That's towards me?
Wow.
Does Christy think having a child on her lap makes her seem more likable? Also, get some sleep. You look tired. Thanks, Breezy. I'm trying.
Adam says, I see ratings must have been down. They recruited someone interesting.
Wow.
All right.
Some burn on the rest of us.
Oh, I mean, thank you, Adam.
Ashley says, I watch the show a lot and I was wondering, are you all changing the name to RT2M? Richie talks too much. I don't know what to say, Ashley, other than I feel like I talk exactly as much as I should. So fuck you.
Yes. Oh boy. Margaret says, is it me or when Tony talks, do you get the feeling he's constipated?
Yeah. Well, that face right there doesn't really help you.
Man, the iron is still hot. We are back here on The Wire. I got these guys wired up talking about Tim Tebow before the break, but we are off the subject. We're going to move over to some basketball just for a little bit here. We'll touch back on the NFL. Don't worry. David Griffin, I don't know if you guys know who that is. He's the vice president of basketball operations for the Louisiana Pelicans. He spoke out this week against NBA officials after Zion Williamson left the court with a fractured ring finger. Griffin claimed publicly that the NBA officials have allowed an open season, as he put it, against Williamson in the paint, saying that it's equal to, if not worse, than the way Shaq was treated by officials in his heyday. Now, the NBA fined Mr. Griffin $50,000 for his comments, so that has been handled as far as the NBA is concerned. First question for you guys, going around the horn, and I think we actually start with Sahi on this one. Do you like David Griffin sticking up for Zion, or do you agree with the fine?
I'm not going to say I agree with the fine, but he shouldn't have said that either. Now you just put a bigger target on Zion's back. You know what I'm saying? That's something you do quietly to the league. Like, yo, you know what I'm saying? They roughing my boy up. You know what I'm saying? Like, first you got to say, you call the games right or I'll go to the papers. You know what I'm saying? You give them a chance to get it right first. You don't just put them on blast off top. And it's just a fractured pinky, so I think he's going to be all right. And he's one of, you know what I'm saying? Zion is one of the most dominant forces in the league. Of course, they're going to call it different for him because he could just bully guys. Like, you got to give the guys a chance, you know what I'm saying, to defend themselves. So that's just what it is. That, you know what I'm saying? They just can't let him do what he wants down there. They got to give him somebody. It's up to Zion to give it back. You know what I'm saying?
Marvin, do you like that David Griffin stuck up for Zion to the press?
No, I don't like the fine, and I don't like what he said. For one, because I've known David Griffin a while. Being the Cavs fan, I know what kind of GM he was. I'm not going to talk down on David Griffin, but you had LeBron James. So you already know exactly what this is about. They're almost the same player, pretty much. If you take LeBron James at the same age as Zion is now, they were getting the same kind of contact. So what are you really saying, that it was worse than Shaq? Like you had Shaq on your team in 2010 alongside LeBron. So I don't know, man. It kind of sounds like he's kind of contradicted himself a little bit. You know, I agree with Sahi. That's something that you kind of keep in house because you kind of putting a target on his back now for opposing defenses to really just kind of hone in and really have put a wall up, you know, defensively around Zion, you know, so you preparing teams to better prepare for him. So I think he was kind of he's kind of overreacting, you know, to the calls that Zion's been getting because he is a big, he is dominant, he's going to get a lot of contact. He draws a lot of contact defensively and offensively. So I just don't understand David Griffin's point. I mean, you had when you were with Cleveland and you had LeBron wasn't getting all that contact. I mean, go back and look at the highlights of the N1 tapes. I mean, LeBron was always getting knocked around. I mean, that's just their prototype as players. They're gonna draw contact. So I disagree completely with the fine. I mean, the fine is bullshit. $50,000 for saying that. What? Man, what is the league coming to?
Owners are not supposed to question officials,
GMs,
public media, and GMs and owners.
No, GM. Oh man, they're fining everybody for everything now. Like, where's the money even going? Is it going back? It goes
to charity. It goes to charity.
It goes to charity. Okay, I get it.
It goes to charity.
Come on, man. Just find another. Come on, find another way. That's just silly. I mean, they should have just let it go. If anything, you're just causing their own detriment to the team. Really, I don't understand the fine behind it. But like Richie, you say it goes to charity. I mean, whatever.
Richie, the same question. Do you like the Griffin did stick up for Zion, but also, you know, looking back at Shaq, when he was faced with that sort of look the other way approach, he just got more aggressive, right? You know, he became more of a physical attribute. He forced more fouls in the paint. I mean, he had to adapt to that style of play because that's the game that he was forced to play. Do you think that the NBA has kind of become soft in that regard?
It has. I don't think in the sense of that scope specifically, but it absolutely has. But that's more defensive rule changes and things of that nature. And to the point of what we'll talk about later, I'm sure. But here's what I'll say. I actually am on the opposite side of the fence. I support this move for this reason. Yes, it's going to put a target on his back, but he has a fractured finger and he's going to miss the rest of the season. And they're already on the bubble and they're the 11th team. So for him, he's just trying to campaign that we had a chance to make the bubble, but my player got injured due to the alleged, you know, abuse, so to speak. Do I think, you know, with Sahi, you know, it's like you can be more tactical about it, but the point is he's not trying to be tactical because Zion's out for the rest of the season. So he just wants it known and have that narrative. So next season, the refs start giving him more calls. I like to call it the James Harden treatment, right? That's what he wants. He wants Zion, who, by the way, second most fouls in the league already. He's already second most. He's getting fouled the second most, by the way. Outside of Giannis, he's number 2 on fouls. So he's getting fouled. Now, but the point is what I notice, and usually the players do it, not the GMs, but when the players do it and they start whining, they start getting more calls. That's just the reality. So, you know, I still think Zion would be more likely to be successful doing it than what's his face? David Griffin. But, you know, Zion don't want to do it because he's basically a rookie. I mean, yes, this is second year, but this dude's a phenom to Marvin's point. 27 points, 7 rebounds, and he's like 20 years old. He's built like a tank. He's 6'7", almost 300 pounds. He's LeBron in different ways, but to Marvin's point, LeBron also got beat up a lot and nobody really complained. But, you know, to Justin's point, it's a softer league now. People complain. That's just what they like to do. Nobody wants to make contact and have contact anymore. But having said that, do I think this, like I said, I think this is a fine narrative just because he got the maximum fine. 50,000 is the max anyone can be fined by the NBA. So he got the maximum fine, but he looks good on paper by sticking up for his player. And it also brings awareness that Zion's getting fouled. Do I think he's getting fouled like Shaquille O'Neal was getting fouled? No. Shaquille O'Neal was getting fouled significantly differently, but he was also physically hurting people much more than what Zion is capable of. Let's clarify that. And in all fairness to Shaquille, I like to point this out too. Sometimes his play became, they called it like bully ball and things like that. But the reality is because he was getting fouled so hard, he was also having to give it back. And in my opinion, sometimes people view his career as like, the elbows he would do when he was posting people up, and they call him a dirty player. And in my opinion, it's because of the lack of fouls they would call. So he had to like force his own way. So I don't like the way he was reffed. I think he should have been reffed more fairly. And then I don't think he would have done the physical things he used to do and had eventually got away with because they didn't know how to call a legitimate foul on him because he was so big. And LeBron's dealt with that for years too, to Marvin's point, where he's just so physically imposing. When he runs at people, sometimes he gets a charge call and you're like, what are you talking about? He walked into his lane. So I think that's the bigger issue, is that these bigger players need to be called fairly. If Steph Curry gets knocked down, people are like, oh my God, or James Harden gets knocked, oh my God, foul. And then like Zion is getting like elbowed in the stomach and nobody's saying anything. So I get where he's coming from. I think it's a like tactical thing to do. If they were like the 5th seed or in the playoff contention, this would have been really stupid, because to Marvin and Sahi's point, he'd be getting headhunted by the players. They'd be calling him all kinds of things. But having said that, dude's probably not playing. I think there's like 6 games left. He's got a fractured finger. It'd be very peculiar for them to have him try to play through that. Now, maybe he's going to gut it out, but I don't see it happening. I think he's done for the season, and it's really unfortunate, but man, what a great season for the guy.
I'm surprised, Sahi, that you didn't come out with why is he sticking up for him? He wants to play for New York anyway. We're gonna move on. We'll talk one more basketball story. We're gonna jump off the subject and come back to basketball. The New York Knicks have not made the NBA playoffs since the 2012-2013 season. This looks like it's gonna be their year if they do get in and don't win a playoff series. Is it a failure of a season? Richie, we'll start back with you and send it back around.
Okay, we kind of talked about this in The Wire a couple seasons ago, maybe 2. And I'm going to stick with what I said then. Hell no, it's not a failure. Nobody expected them to do well. They're already, this is already like a success story, period, right? This is a success story. These guys are playing phenomenal. These guys have a better record currently than the Lakers. They're 4th in the East, man. The Knicks have been a pathetic franchise. Marv could probably talk way more about it than I'm going to, but I'm just going to say this. Nobody expected them to be playing at this level. Nobody expected them to be competing at all. And they're 4th in the East. And again, the East isn't terrible, people. People are getting to this narrative that the East is so bad. It's really not that bad anymore. And for them to be 4th, basically outside of the big guns, Milwaukee, the Nets, and the 76ers, they're the next best team in the East. That's a huge success story, even if they get swept, man. Like, when's the last time they sniffed the fucking playoffs? This is great for them. This is great for the city of New York. And at the end of the day, we can talk about the Nets and everybody going over there. But the bottom line is this. The New York Knicks are basketball. They are still the most high-valued sports franchise, period, with 30 fucking years of losing. They're still worth more than the Warriors, than the Lakers, than any football team, than the Dallas Cowboys. The New York Knicks are still worth more than all of those. So this is a massive success story. This is going to raise their stock. And maybe with these young kids playing so well, it'll actually bring people, because Durant even said that, like, the Knicks haven't been relevant. Why would I go there? Well, guess what? This is the start to leading to that. And when the Knicks and New York teams do well, generally sports are out. That's just the reality of life, man. When you have a big market and big markets are successful, everyone's happy. Sports are being watched more. So it is good that the Knicks are doing well. Even if they get swept, this is a great sign. Any Knick fan would tell you right now, they are elated, man. Randall's playing out of his mind. They are happy. Nobody expected this. And even with their shitty owner Dolan, kudos to them, man. I'm super excited. I haven't seen that. The last time I saw the Knicks even decent, it was when Latrell Sprewell was playing for them. All right, it was a long time ago. Maybe Marbury. It was a long time ago, though, man. This has been a long time coming, and I'm excited. I don't care if they get swept. I don't care if the Lakers win the championship and the Knicks just barely make the playoffs. It's just good for New York, man. And what's good for New York is good for the NBA.
Marvin, you are in New York currently, my friend, living there. If the Knicks make it, now that's the question at hand. If they make it to the playoffs, what they're going to make the playoffs. If they get in there and they don't win a series, is it a failure of a season?
No, it's not a failure. This is the biggest, like Richie said, this is the biggest win New York could have had for the longest. I mean, this would be considered a win because, like I said, like Richie said, they have been a laughing stock since 2012, since Carmelo Anthony, when he took that team to the playoffs and they didn't get out the first round. To me, but I mean, it's crazy to think about how far they've actually come. I mean, I remember the last time they went to the NBA Finals, and that was against the Spurs in a lockout. Was after the lockout season,
yeah,
and they just haven't had any postseason success. But I mean, when you just living here in New York, you just see the excitement. Everybody's faces, like, and it's good. It's great to see because this has birthed a new rivalry between people from Brooklyn and people from the city, and I love it. You know, I love it because it's that classic trash talk that you get like between like Yankees fans and Mets fans, and now it's just basketball. Now, so when you got the Knicks good and you got the Brooklyn Nets is good because Brooklyn, I mean, they're their own borough. So, I mean, they represent Brooklyn to the fullest. So you better be careful if you go over to Brooklyn and start talking shit about the Nets. But this is just great to see. I mean, you're going to see in the offseason maybe some free agent attractions. I mean, I heard that they're talking about Damian Lillard. I mean, we don't know. We're just going to say it here on the wire right now. You know, if Dame doesn't want to stay in Portland, it's New York seems like it's an attractive market. I mean, it's like Richie was saying, one of the highest value franchises in the world, more than the Lakers, more than the Yankees, more than the Cowboys. I mean, they're the franchise. They're the attraction. New York is back. I mean, it's great to see like this roster of talent, just play hard every night. So if they got to the playoffs and lost a series, big deal. I mean, you got the most improved coach of the year and Coach Thibodeau, a guy that has a ring, has championship pedigree from the Boston Celtics when he won back in 2008 as a defensive coach. I mean, you got what's his name Julius Randle. I mean, what can you say about Julius Randle? A beast, all-star. So who will want to play with him right now? If you ask me, Brooklyn is the biggest hype. I mean, we haven't seen them completely healthy. I mean, we know what they can do. We know the talent they have. They just slap that shit together, man. That don't look real. I'm talking about the Knicks. The Knicks are a franchise that you can actually respect. They are built from the ground up. They are a rose that have grown straight out of concrete. They are the New York Knicks. It is great to see them back. And like Richie said, it is great for basketball when the New York Knicks are good.
They are the 2014 Warriors, man. They've drafted a true team.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He mentioned Dame Lillard's potential, want to go to New York. Don't forget about our boy Zion. He said it first. Okay, I just want to.
Zion got to finish that rookie. I want to stand up for Zion. Also, they're not gonna let him go anywhere just yet.
Sahi, please tell me you don't agree with these guys. If they get there and they don't do it, does it really count?
A wise man once told his son, "Listen, son, if you're not first, you're last." So if they go to the playoffs and they lose, who gives a for real? Come on, man. It's not a successful season. You play to win the game. You need that championship trophy to say success. We've done it. Now is a bright spot and some hope, some light at the end of the long tunnel of years of being straight trash. Yeah, there's some light at the end of the tunnel, but we don't know yet. So let them bring some talent in and see how they do. So nobody's expecting to do anything. So, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Who knows? They could surprise us. So the jury's still out. They could take it all away. Who knows? Julius Randle is balling. But a successful season if they lose? No, not a success. It's just
All right,
more
so
misery.
I'm gonna keep it with you. We're gonna bounce off of basketball just for a minute. We'll be back to it. Don't worry. The Seahawks receiver DK Metcalf did something interesting this past week. He showed up to compete in the 100-meter dash at the USA Track and Field Golden Games and Distance Open. Now, Metcalf, first of all, I don't know if you guys had a chance to see, he was like twice the size of everyone else on the field.
50 pounds heavier and about 5 inches taller.
Yeah, he sore thumb in the pack. However, he did manage to keep up with the pack. He also finished last place. He ran his 100 meters in 10.37 seconds. First and foremost, what do you make of his showing and his decision to compete? And also, what do you make of the difference in speed between the sports? You got track and field where, I would consider DK Metcalf a powerhouse amongst his peer receivers. And he was the back of the pack in this race. What do you make of it, Sahi?
I think it's amazing, actually. I saw that it was his first track meet ever, first 100 ever. So his form wasn't all the way there, though he's been training for it. And he just hopped up in there and ran a 10.3. Wow, with some training. Say he only trained for track and field, dropped some of those pounds off. He could be one of the fastest guys. It just shows the NFL really, really, really does gather the best of the best talent. You know what I'm saying, in the world. You know what I'm saying? So it's just amazing to see. I remember my days. I've never run that fast. I was a bigger guy. I was like 225, 230 when I ran the 100 in high school. I think my fastest was like 11.2. So he's a whole second faster than I was. It's just amazing.
We're going in the reverse order. Marvin, what do you make of DK Metcalf showing at the USATF Golden Games?
I think it was exciting to watch, but at the same time, I really think that, the Seahawks organization in the NFL, I just feel like that's, like I have said earlier in another segment, it's like a publicity stunt. I've seen, we've seen Marquise Goodwin, a wide receiver in the NFL. He's actually I think he's participated in the Olympics. I don't know to what degree, but they both found out, as DK Metcalf did. These guys do this for a living. These guys actually, run all the time, and they're lighter, they're shorter. So they just had an advantage over him. But I think that this, separates him from the pack of wide receivers in the league. He's definitely the fastest, the fastest receiver in the league. If I think, Tyreek Hill, but right underneath that, it goes Tyreek and then DK. Then I anyone else you could just throw on that list. But I think this separates him from the pack. But at the same time, I just think this does more for, the NFL's, exposure to these kind of things, just to kind of keep people excited. I really don't think that this was something that he was, going to, do. He's not going to, give up football for this. Like, this is something that he tried out. He wanted to see where he was. I think that he let that play against Buda Baker that one Sunday night. I think he's still on that. People telling him how fast he was. People telling him like, man, I don't think you know how fast you really are, DK. You should run in the Olympics. And so, I just think that he's just, he's still holding on to that. He's a fast dude. So I think this is his last time doing it, but I don't think we'll see him do any better than 9th place.
What do you think, Richie? You had an opportunity to watch the race, didn't you?
Yeah, I watched it. So he was 15th out of 17 total, and he was last in his heat at 9th. Here's what I'll say. Goodwin is technically slightly faster. I'm with Marv on that. His official run was like 10.2. So I'm not trying to take anything away. We're also talking about like 5'9" versus 6'4". So that's the whole point, is this guy's a physical specimen. He's ridiculoly large. And honestly, it's kind of interesting to me. Sahi was only a second slower. Sahi, you pretty quick, man. But having said that, that's a big margin. It may not seem like it to be 0.2 of a second slower than the field, but it's a big margin. And to Sahi's point, sure, if DK wanted to lose some weight and take this as a career, he clearly has the potential to be in that category, but he ain't gonna make no money doing that. So no, like you can't play football and do this, and clearly he's not going to. To Marvin's point, and to everyone's, the curiosity of how do I compete? Well, that's where he's at. He's pretty damn good, but he'd have to really buckle down if he wanted to try to really compete. Because again, like people may not think that, but it's the same thing as like you look at the combine, you look at a guy who runs 4.2 and you look at a guy who runs 4.4. You always know that 4.2 guy's significantly quicker. It may not seem like it, but that adds up when you really start seeing it. And if you watch this, you'll see DK at first, he's right with him. And then by the end, he's like 7 steps. And then if they would have keep going, that's gonna be like 18. It starts to break. So it sounds so close on paper, but I promise you people, 0.2 of a second is a big difference. It's a huge difference. So having said that, it was cool. He's a genetic freak. We all know he did that 24-mile-an-hour blitz run, and he was, feeling himself on it. And you can see he's got the raw talent, but he would genuinely have to lose about 30 pounds of muscle, because the dude's like 240. So you can't be 240 and run the 100-meter. You're just not going to win, bro. It's never going to happen.
I thought it was a Super Bowl commercial when it first started. I was like, what's going on? He looks just twice the size of everybody else.
Yeah. I mean, he is. If you've ever seen this dude, not that I'm saying Google DK Metcalf shirtless. That is not what I am telling people. But if you see this guy, he looks like a Greek statue. It's ridiculous. And then you see how fast he's the definition of like, if this dude was born in like gladiator times, like that'd be the guy where you just be like, kill me now. Like, put the sword down. I give up. Like, just kill me, please. I don't want to fight. I want to resist, because it's not going to go my way. This guy is a specimen, and I'm really excited to see him improve in the wide receiver game, because if he can ever catch the damn ball, Marvin and I talked about this a lot. If he could catch the freaking ball, this guy would have 25 touchdowns a season. He just can't catch.
Richie, the ball landed here, and I'll give you the sportsmanship option to let Marvin pick it up on this, but technically it's yours to start with. Rory McIlroy's win at the Wells Fargo, I still can't say his name after years of doing this. Rory McIlroy's win at the Wells Fargo Championship at Quail Hollow, does that make him your favorite for the PGA Championship?
I mean, here's what I gotta say. First of all, we got a lot of subjects about a lot of white athletes. This is an interesting show. Rory McIlroy, what'd you say? Pheasant, quail? What was the tournament?
Quail Hollow is the location. It was the Wells Fargo Championship. He did get a win there, and it put him number 1 on the odds, and that's why I brought him to the conversation.
Yeah, no.
There, but.
Respect. Like here's I'm gonna say it again, like I did with the Floyd Mayweather thing. Tiger was on his game, man, and this young white dude played really well for about 2 years, and he disappeared. It's the great white hype, people. Don't believe it. Rory McIlroy. 10 years ago, I would have been like, you know what? I'm sold. But no, Rory McIlroy is not going anywhere. This is not going to be like the turnaround, the comeback kid. The dude had a great win, and I'm not taking anything away. Golf is one of the hardest sports. And in our generation, we just happen to witness somebody like Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, who's just so dominant that we think people can do that consistently, and they can't. So jokes aside, I'm glad he got a win. It's been a while, as I was joking, but I don't trust anybody in golf. This is not any other sport. Like, you do not dominate golf. That's just not a thing. Take Tiger out of the equation and take Jack Nicklaus out of the equation. Then you just have like Ernie Els, who's a great player, but it's not like you never expected Ernie to just win. You'd expect him to be like top 5 every time. And that's how golf works. There's so many great players. Anybody can win. Like, I just don't see it happening, man. Like, I will not be like, Rory McIlroy's got it in the bag. That's just not how golf works anymore, or really ever has, outside of outliers. Congratulations to Rory McIlroy, though. Like I said, the dude got a lot of pressure and weight on his shoulders because he basically blew up right after Tiger started falling. So that's incredible pressure. And I do hope that he can ride this wave and things will be successful. But no, I don't think this changes anything, or he's going to just start on this rampage of winning. No.
All right, Marvin, we're going to give you a quick take, and then Sahi, we're going to pick up the last story with you. What do you make of this? Is this making him your favorite for the PGA Tour?
I think he's got momentum, but like Richie said, I don't think this makes him the odds-all favorite to win. I mean, this is Rory we're talking about. We go back and look at even some of his highlights for even the non-golfers that are watching. You can just see holes where he's skewing the ball into the woods during major events. I mean, so he's always struggled with inconsistency. I've never really taken him, as a consistent competitor to win, multiple major championships. He's never been that guy in his career. He never has. You go back and look at it. So I think it's a couple guys I can think of: Dustin Johnson, Jordan Spieth. I'll put them over him, and even Tiger if he wasn't on one leg. But I just think that Rory McIlroy is kind of, I want to say he's past his prime, or but I'd say he's past what we expected him to be, what they told us he would be. He is not. So there really is, there's much I do about nothing with this. I just think Roy had a great win. Like you said, can't take that from him. Winning a tournament anyway is hard in itself, but this is not basketball. This is not football. This is not the momentum swing. You just keep, you can just keep going into the next, tournament, next major championship. You can wake up one morning and you just don't have it. And Rory McIlroy has woke up plenty of mornings and he didn't have it. So I'm not just about to say the PGA Championship, he's going to wake up that morning and have it, because he's got to prove it, and there's other players that's going to take it from him.
Man, coming from Marvin, the golfer. All right, Sahi, we're going to go back to the stopwatch. I got the 60 seconds on the clock for each of you. We talked about the Knicks. LeBron is still missing in LA, taking some time on that ankle to let it heal as much as it can. Anthony Davis did lead the Lakers to a win over the Phoenix Suns, 123-110. He did look great in their close loss against the Trailblazers. He had 39 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists. As the clock continues to wind down towards the playoffs, who do you trust more, the Lakers or the Knicks? Go.
That's easy. I trust the Lakers a whole heck of a lot more, because they got superstars out there. Anthony Davis is a superstar, like he proved the other night, leading the team to victory. He's getting his win back. They're gonna find it here eventually, even if LeBron's at 60-70%. I trust him way more than the Knicks. Come on now. LeBron's been to how many finals in a row?
True. This is true. Okay, Marvin, it's the same question. You're there in New York. Who do you trust more, LA Lakers or the New York Knicks?
That's an easy one. I'm going to go with the Lakers, man. I mean, is that are you kidding? I mean, as much as I spoke highly about the Knicks in the last segment, I'm not going to put anybody that they have on their roster right now over Anthony Davis. If you go and see what this man did last night, I'm not taking anybody on the Knicks roster over Anthony Davis and the way he's playing right now. Like Sahi said, he got his win back. And like Anthony Davis said, he's back. And then you go back and look at the tape. I mean, look out for the Western Conference. If you can get Bron healthy at 80%, look out. This is the defending NBA champions we're talking about here. So I'm going to go with the Lakers.
Richie, you have mentioned time and time again that they are running out of time, and it might end up being a play-in against the Warriors. Even I saw that this week.
That was my fucking nightmare, as I told you a million times over, that they play the Warriors and the goddamn Warriors would beat them and then put them down the seed. So having said that, let's just go with my nightmare scenario. The Warriors beat the Lakers. The Lakers have to play for the 8th seed. So then the Lakers play the Jazz. They'll beat the Jazz. As much as I wanted to try to swerve you guys and say the Knicks, I trust more. I can't. because regardless, the Lakers are playing the Suns or the Jazz, and either way, they're going to beat them. As we talked about, I don't have any faith necessarily the Knicks are going to win. I was just saying they could get swept and it would be good. We just discussed this. So having said that, it doesn't matter. If the Lakers lose to the Warriors and then they end up in the 8th seed, they still go and play the Jazz. They'll beat the Jazz. That doesn't matter. If Anthony Davis plays half of what he just played, Rudy Gobert has no shot of stopping him. And if for the sake of the argument, which is what I hope, they beat the Warriors, then they'll play the Suns. And then the Suns aren't going to be able to compete with them. No way, no how. They're a great team. Chris Paul, man, every team he goes to, he makes them significantly better, but you will not beat the Lakers. I don't trust the Knicks to win a fucking game. I was just excited they're in the playoffs, man. Lakers.
Man, Richie, we had to have known you'd be the first one to hit the beeper. It's okay. It's okay. Great takes, everybody. Okay, the wild card is less of a wild card, but I still think it's a wild card. Luka Doncic of the Dallas Mavericks was ejected, but not charged a technical after his flagrant 2 ruling against Colin Sexton of the Cavs. I don't know if you guys saw it. If you missed the game, it was an apparent intentional strike to the we'll say nether region for political correctness of Sexton.
Basketballs.
Right into his basketballs. Doncic has 15 technical fouls on the season. Had this been ruled a technical, he would be forced to take a 1-game suspension. Was this the right call? We got 3 minutes, so I guess try to keep it short. I'll keep the timer going, but if we lose it, somebody close it. Go ahead, Rich.
Okay, I'll do it real quick. This is absolutely the right call. He hit him in the nads, the gonads, the nuts. Who cares what you want to call them? We don't need to get political with it. The bottom line is when you strike somebody in the region that you don't ever hit a man, it's a flagrant 2. Flagrant 2 is excessive, not just like force, excessive. That is excessive. There's no basketball play where you bag somebody in the nuts. This happened with Draymond Green with Adams in 2016. It's the same type of thing. LeBron, he tagged him in the nuts. He got suspended again. This is what happens. Now, don't get me wrong. Whether the technical should be assessed or not is irrelevant because he gets suspended in the regular season. They still gonna make the playoffs. When he goes to the playoffs, it resets. He doesn't keep his technicals. So there's no margin with this. But bottom line, you deserve it, bro. You don't hit a man in the basketballs. That's just rude.
Marvin, what do you make of it?
Oh, he definitely deserves it. I mean, Richie, you couldn't be more correct. I mean, you hit another man in the balls, in the nads, whatever you want to call it, you're done. you get a 1-game suspension. I mean, as Draymond, I mean, I don't hate to be biased here, but I was a Cavs fan and I felt like that suspension helped the Cavs win that championship. So I feel like refs being on top of that is important. And I mean, he did it to himself.
Right.
Hey, he deserved to be suspended.
Yeah.
Sahi, you're going to take us home here. Was it the right call? Should he got a technical? I guess is what my question is.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you do it intentionally. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
come on, man. What are you doing? What are you doing? If it happened on accident, that's one thing. You know, still team up. You know what I'm saying? Get him out of there. But at least you know something. But you know what I'm saying? You're just going around hitting dudes in the balls, man. It's not cool, man.
He balled his fist up, Sahi, and then he hammered him right in the nuts. I'm telling you, I watched the play. It was a hammer fist into the dick. I apologize for my language.
That's what they do overseas, but not over here. Come on.
All right. Well, this has been The Wire. We have had a blast. Make sure you check out the H2G podcast this Friday at 7 p.m. I will not be there, but you better be, and I'll be watching with you. And then check us out next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here, H2GPodcast.com, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and where all audio podcasts are played. For The Wire this week, I'm Justo. You guys have a good weekend.
I thought I was watching something different. Like, you know what I mean? When he's just hitting that hard in the dick, I really thought it was a different type of show. I don't know. Right. That was just not something you're supposed to see in basketball.
And then he tried to play it off after the game.
Then he tried to play it off. He just looked like surprised.
He was just like